Alright, so I'm currently working on my how to fix Wonder Woman 84 video. But while I was working on it, WandaVision ended, and then now Falcon and Winter Soldier has ended. But since then, the ending of WandaVision has just kind of been living in my head rent-free. So this video is kind of unscripted, impromptu. This wasn't planned, alright, whatever. Like, overall I thought the show was great up until the last episode. It kind of devolved into a classic Marvel opposites attract battle and felt kind of rushed. Like, I think they could have just used one more episode. And we know from director Matt Jackman and writer Jack Schaefer that originally the show was supposed to have 10 episodes or something like that. But because of that thing I can't name on YouTube, I'll call it the currently ongoing viral infection that the show had to change its ending and combine 2 episodes together or something like that. But I think the most glaring issue with the show was the 2 villains, Director Hayward and Agatha Harkness. And like, spoilers by the way for WandaVision, but like, Falcon and Winter Soldier's off now too, so you had time to watch both shows by now, but whatever. I love Kathryn Hahn and thought she did a great job as Agatha, but I think it's really weird that the MCU took a character who in the comics is morally ambiguous and acts as an ally at times, specifically for the Fantastic Four as Franklin Richards' nanny, and turned her into like a flat out villain. Like, we've seen this done before with the Skrulls, because like obviously the Skrulls in the comics like are just straight up evil, and that's a totally different issue and topic entirely. But with Agatha, the switch from neutral party to neutral ally seemed like it would be a pretty easy switch. Like, you could watch episode 8 of WandaVision when they're going through Wanda's memories, and like, Agatha isn't antagonistic until the last scene when she's choking the kids. Like, she's sassy as hell the whole time, but that's kind of been her character throughout the whole show. In the comics, Agatha makes morally questionable choices, but usually for good reasons. Like, she makes Wanda forget the existence of her children when Mephisto reclaims them, since they're fragments of the soul. But she only did that to spare Wanda the grief because she knew she couldn't mentally handle what was happening, which, like, no shit. Like, she literally could not handle it, and that's how we got the whole M Day and House of M thing. And if I remember correctly in the comics, which let's be real, probably not, when she was Franklin Richards' nanny, she kind of hid her magical abilities from the Fantastic Four initially, but she's never really been a full-on villain. Like, in the second to last episode of the show, they kind of have her act like a mentor to Wanda, like showing her the spells and the runes and everything. But the MCU could have set it up a little bit better for her to act as like an actual mentor, without Wanda literally trapping the woman inside of her own mind to revisit later, which, like Agatha says, is incredibly cruel. And then you have Hayward, who we're never really sure why he has such a hate boner for Wanda. Like, someone on Twitter said that he has big "my wife slept with the superhero during the snap" energy. And like, absolutely. But they never make good on why he was acting that way, or like what his motivations were. And I mean, maybe he was just frustrated about Vision not powering on, and then he got even more mad when Wanda refused to help, but that's not really good justification for him wanting to kill her and her children in the last episode. While we're slightly on the topic of Vision, can we talk about for a second how the hell Vision's body was taken out of Wakanda? Like, Thanos killed Viz there, and I'm assuming his body just kind of stayed there unless the Avengers brought it back with them to the States right after the snap happened? Or did they just leave him there? And that's kind of messed up, but like, if they didn't, then why would the Wakandans be okay with that much vibranium being taken out of the country? Like, they put a failsafe in Bucky's arm and Falcon and the Winter Soldier just in case, but they're okay with Vision being taken out, no problem? And if they were okay with Vision being taken to the States by the Avengers, did the Avengers just hand him over to S.H.I.E.L.D.? Like, they never answer this, and it's really weird to me that it hasn't been addressed yet. But anyway, Hayward's hatred for Super Bees doesn't seem to be shared with the other S.W.O.R.D. agents, since half of them helped Monica and Jimmy make the rover later. He kind of devolves into a Saturday morning cartoon villain in the last episode, and like, is using catchphrases and stuff, and it's like, come on, dude. But I think all of this stems from the MCU not wanting to make Wanda a full-on villain like she was initially in Age of Ultron. The MCU up until recently with Falcon and Winter Soldier hasn't been really good with subtlety or moral ambiguity. They definitely could have gone the subtlety route with Agatha, and it would have made more sense for her to try to like ingratiate herself with Wanda when she learned she was a nigh on all-powerful Scarlet Witch, and becoming a mentor to her, getting her into her good graces rather than straight up fighting her, which I think is really stupid. And then with Hayward, they could have gone the whole, oh, he's a hard-ass military leader with, you know, a heart of gold route, but he's doing it, like, he's doing things for good reason. Because if, like, we're gonna be honest, Hayward wasn't entirely wrong. Like, he wanted to save the people of Westview, and he saw they being tortured and how Wanda's control over them was excruciating. And like, even when Monica reports back after she gets yeeted out of the Hex, like, she talks about how painful and like how depressing and like agonizing Wanda's control was over her. I honestly gotta feel like the only reason the show made him shoot at Billy and Tommy Monaco was so that it would put no doubt into viewers' minds that he was the bad guy. Like, so I do a lot of writing, both for the channel and as a hobby, and I remember reading this writing tip article about things like a writer can do to make a character seem irredeemable. And one is to have a character rape someone. Number 2 is to have them kill children or the elderly, and then number 3 is to have them kill a pet, typically a dog. It's like a moral event horizon that everyone has in their minds. When someone does one of those 3 things in fiction, we as readers just can't get on board with them and we'll start to actively hate them. So like obviously they went the animal route with Agatha because she killed Sparky, and then they went the child route with Hayward. Because again, like technically speaking, up to that point, Hayward wasn't wrong. He just wanted to save the people of Westview because Wanda was literally torturing them. And then that brings me to like the worst, most out of place line in the whole show.
They'll never know what you sacrificed for them.
It wouldn't change how they see me.
What an odd thing to say.
Wanda didn't sacrifice anything because she didn't have anything to sacrifice to begin with. Like, she walked into town with nothing. She walked out of town with nothing. And I mean, aside from learning that she's a Scarlet Witch, she physically didn't come in with or leave with anyone but herself. And that was the whole point of the show, was that she was grieving after having lost everything. Like, she conjured a family out of nothing and then trapped an entire town in her grief. She didn't give up anything because she didn't have anything to start with. It's like this clip from the Sherry Bobbins episode, The Simpsons, when the family's trying to save enough money to afford a housekeeper for Marge because she's literally losing her hair from stress.
I'll stop buying Malibu Stacy clothing. And I'll take up smoking and give that up.
Good for you, son. Giving up smoking is one of the hardest things you'll ever have to do. Have $1.
But he didn't do anything.
Didn't he, Lisa? Didn't he? Hey, wait a minute. He didn't!
That's basically what happened at the end of WandaVision, and yes, I used 2 Simpsons references back to back. You can go ahead and fight me. And then Wanda doesn't get punished at the end of the show at all. Like, she gave up her manufactured life that she made for herself to do the morally right thing, which was releasing everyone from the town. And it wasn't like she sacrificed the morally right thing to do something for the well-being of everyone else in the town. Like, the people of Westview are still traumatized and then unvindicated from what she did to them. And then they just had to watch the person who tortured them get off scot-free, and Wanda flies off like, I have to go, my planet needs me. And then yes, that's reference 3 for those playing at home. Like, I think Wanda was originally meant to be the villain of WandaVision, and then Marvel chickened out, so then they had to turn Agatha heel from ally to mentor, and then they had to like kind of turn the villain dial all the way up to 11 to cartoonish levels for Hayward just to justify Wanda's sins, basically. Like, if they wanted to go the villain route with Wanda but make her conflicted or show her being irredeemable, they totally could have. We've watched plenty of shows where main characters are like anti-heroes or actively commit crimes. Like, if you see Breaking Bad or The Sopranos. Or The Punisher. Like, The Punisher kills a lot of people in Daredevil Season 2. And then he got his own show. But then the last episode, WandaVision just kind of tossed subtly right out the window. And then let Wanda off the hook. And then gave us a classic villain ending with Hayward in cuffs. And then put Agatha on the shelf for later use. Which, like, I'm assuming she's going to come back for Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. And it would have been super easy to turn Wanda back into a villainess again. And just have her be the antagonist for Multiverse of Madness. But that would probably go against the Disney Plus model that Feige's talked about. So like basically Feige said that he wants the Disney Plus series to be supplementary to the movies so that people who either can't afford Disney Plus or don't have time to watch the shows will still know what's going on when they go see the main MCU movies at the theaters, whenever that happens. Like, that's why it made sense to bring in a dead character like Vision in the show and then have him technically still be dead at the end. Like, it's kind of like bookending. Like, they did the same thing with Batroc in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Like, people didn't really care where he was, and then like he ends up, spoilers for Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but he ends up dead, like, because Sharon shoots him. So it's kind of like, it wasn't like they brought him in a movie and then had him disappear or whatever. Like, they're both gone is like what I'm trying to say. And as much as I like getting Disney Plus shows, it kind of puts the writers in a bind with the characters creatively because status quo is God, so they have to make sure that like non-subscribers know what's going on when the movies come out. and then that the characters don't stray too far outside their sandboxes so that it doesn't confuse people. But I don't know, I feel like WandaVision kind of didn't really need villains at all if they just kept the focus on Wanda. And I know everyone wanted Mephisto to show up, like so much so that it's turned into a meme at this point. But looking back now, he's too much of a heavy hitter of a character to debut in one of the shows because Feige's rule. You know, because of Feige's rule that I mentioned earlier. So yeah, those are just my 2 cents. What do you guys think? What are your thoughts on WandaVision? Did you like it? I liked it. Okay, till the end. I want to do another video about WandaVision, but we will see. I have a backlog of videos right now, guys, and like the only thing I like having a backlog of is, you know, back issues of comics that I like to buy, so we'll see if I get to it. But thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all soonish.